Any other questions here? We got about 15 minutes, and you know, I could go on and on about different pathogens and things like that. I get a lot of seed questions, like I just copied some down that we had this week here. Let me just see if I can find a good one here. We went through, I got, bless her heart, this lady, she sent me a photograph of her plants, and it was in a box. The box was 18 inches high. She had all her seeds planted in there with pots, and they were probably about a week and a half old. They were about that long, and they were on top of the refrigerator. So she didn't have lighting, proper lighting above it, and so these poor plants were just so spindly, and they were just kind of growing up like that. She just asked, "What's happening with my plants?" And so I had to go through a little bit. I just tried to explain that the lighting, you know, put those lights down about 4 inches, even 2 inches above that. If you have lights, put them 2 inches above your plants will keep them from getting so leggy and reaching for the light that was above the refrigerator, whatever it was. Tomatoes are really bad about that, yeah. And so if you're putting your plants by a window, you're going to get leggy. You know, they're going to tend to want to go toward the window and be long and leggy. Whereas you get them in that little system that I just described on a rack with the lights right above the plants there, the fluorescent lights, cold and warm, you're going to get stocky tomatoes. You're going to get stocky plants, and just raise it up as you go. And so it's an investment that you have to do if you're serious about gardening, and it pays off. It pays off. So there's other issues. I'll just let you guys, if you have any questions, rather than go through all this list here. I get so many calls about different things, but I try to answer them the best I can. Any other questions or problems that you might have, just go ahead. I got about 10 minutes.
You know, talking about leggy plants, I built me a small greenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I start them out there, and I never had that problem.
Right, exactly.
It's the natural light.
Natural lighting, yeah, if you can do that, and not everybody can. I have a little greenhouse too, as well as a high tunnel. It's an 80 by 40 or 38, 80 foot by 38, and that has helped tremendously. And you know, I give all the praise to God, because this grant that I applied for, I was able to get that greenhouse or that high tunnel for that. It was about $10,000 grant. I had to go through some procedures, but that's the only way we could afford it. I mean, we started from nothing and little by little built up. We basically raw land, 40 acres, and we just carved a place there in the woods, cleared it out, and started small and then expanded. And that was 2007, and now, you know, we're selling for market. And we started, you know, with a little miniature greenhouse where we could set up, actually in the house, and then outside. I have it sitting by my kitchen. We cook with a wood cook stove, and I have an electric outside for the summer. But that wood cook stove during the winter allows the air to go through that kitchen window, which we have a fan that sucks that hot air into the greenhouse. And so it warms up the greenhouse at night and keeps those plants, those early starts going, so that we can put them outside early and get a little bit of an edge on the market that way. But if you're a home grower, you don't have to go through all of that, but it is nice to get it early start if you can. Any other questions of just problems you're having, maybe I can answer?
Yeah, I don't know if you'd consider this a problem, but how do you know when watermelon or a cantaloupe is actually ready to pick?
Okay, the question was, how do you know if a watermelon or a cantaloupe is ready to pick? Anybody have any suggestions on that have grown them? Anybody? How do you know if a cantaloupe is ripe enough to go ahead and pick? Go ahead.
We grow a lot of them down in South Carolina. The tip of it will slip off.
Okay.
You only have to pull it, the cantaloupe. The watermelons are a little bit more difficult for me, but I go by the timing on the seed pack as to when they're mature.
Okay.
And also, there's a little, the leaves at the end of the stem are supposed to get dry up, the tendrils.
Right, the tendrils.
And then I go by that too, but that's not always exact.
Okay.
The cantaloupes are easier than the watermelons.
All right, so let me explain what she just said for those over here. On the cantaloupe, the end, you said the end will...
The part that attaches to the cantaloupe itself.
yeah. Yeah, there's a little disc on the end, right? Exactly. You'll notice that the cantaloupe itself is good answer. Thank you. There's another one too on that cantaloupe. I'll add to that, piggyback on top of that explanation. Basically, the cantaloupe will just kind of fall right off that stem, and you have to test a few of them. I mean, it's ripe when you can just simply pull it up and it poof, pops right off. Sometimes it gets too ripe, and so you got to watch them right up to the day. And the other one that I'm going to add on top of that is you can start smelling your cantaloupe from about 10 feet away. And also when the raccoons start smelling them, and when you're getting stuff stolen, then you know that they're ripe.
Bees will start to fly around.
Bees, that's right, really fragrant. When you start smelling that cantaloupe on the flower end, and it smells like a cantaloupe that's ripe, it's ready to be picked usually, okay? And now watermelon, she's correct on that. That's a good. And the tendril on it dries up. Perhaps the leaf around there that's attached, the first part that's attached to the watermelon of the vine there, you'll see a little tendril, like a little viney thing there. If that's all shriveled up and brown, it's pretty much ready to go. The other one is when you turn gently your watermelon over and it's yet nice and yellow, you can generally get the idea that that thing's ripe right there. It has to be kind of nice and white or yellow there. It's been sitting on the ground long enough. Okay?
I have a question about
Seedlings?
seedlings. I ended up with a bunch of little, they're not mushrooms, but they just look like fungus and little ants.
Mm-hmm.
Came up in my seedlings. Is it worth it putting those out, the plants? I mean, are they going to be, because they look kind of stunted or something.
Okay, you're talking about the plants, the seeds that you planted, they grew up, and they're like a little, the leaves are just coming up, but nothing else.
The plant within the cell is a little mushroom kind of thing. It's like they got too moist. So I got little tiny fungus things growing up with the
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would say, I would try to, okay, the question was, sounds like you got two things growing. Sounds like you have, we only have about 5 minutes more here to go, and I'm going to introduce someone here pretty soon. You got mushrooms growing in your pot. There's many different kinds of fungus, so I'm not sure which one it is. But the mycelia, or the actual fruit of the mushroom, is the part that is exposed outside. When you buy a mushroom, it's basically the fruiting body of the fungus itself that's crawling around underneath the soil, which can, by the way, go for thousands of feet, hundreds of yards underground, which, by the way, communicates to other organisms and plants. It's very interesting how these fungus work. But is it harmful to your plants? I would probably just get rid of it. It's probably not. But I'm not sure why the plant is stunted. It could be a little bit too much moisture. If you got mushrooms in there, the soil might be a little bit too damp. I would just bring back the watering, let it dry out a bit, and then you can, once it gets typically 4 inches high, you can repot it into maybe a bigger pot or harden it off. It might take about a week or so to gradually take it in and out of the doors outside, let it get used to in the shade, bring it in at night, and then leave it a little longer the next day. But it needs to get up a little higher, about 4 inches, before you do that. So if you can repot it in different soil, and make sure the soil is some good new potting soil. Don't just get garden soil. And if you have a problem with fungus and issues with your soil, with damping off, which is another fungus issue, bake it at about 200 degrees. If you bought a big mix and you don't want to spend any more money, just put it in a nice little a cookie sheet, maybe with sides on it, and just bake it for about 200 degrees for 30, 40 minutes, and it'll kill everything in there and sterilize it. And you can start over again. Of course, let it cool down. You'll have baked seeds, but you want to make sure you kill all the fungus. That's pretty bad. We have maybe time for one or two more questions. Anybody?
Okay, do you have any suggestions on what to do for vine borers?
Vine borers.
Can they go into the squashes and stems?
Yeah, I would get, there's two things that I do. I try to get, number one, varieties that mochadas are usually mochata type squashes, which are like some of them are like butternuts. Some of the wider lobed looking squash, you'll see those at Baker Creek. Just type in MOCH or MOSCHATA, and those type of squashes are typically impervious, not completely proof, vine borer proof, but they make it hard for them to get in there. Butternuts are really good for that. We have had good success. But another thing, my wife did this. She just wrapped foil around the base about 6 inches on the vine near the base, and sometimes that helps. And you can surgically remove them too, and tape them, tape them back. So yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, I tried to do it. I can't remember the season. Study the cycle. Another thing you can do when you have issues like that is study the cycle. Study the cycle of the pests that you find. Find out when they come out generally in the area, and avoid planting during that time. That's why I've said as early as possible plant those, get that soil warm so that you can have squash a little bit before those guys get out, because they operate at night, those vine borer. They're a moth that go in there and do their thing, and then lay their eggs right in there in the ground, and then it bores up inside the plant itself. Or plant a little bit later in the season when they're all finished with everything. So that's the strategy that I would use for those. And row covers. You can cover your squash with lightweight row covers, and generally they can't penetrate that and get in there for that. So I'll tell you, the people I work with at Baker Creek are just enormous. You can call us anytime. They're willing to help. Any time of the day you call us, you got the customer care people, and if it's a garden question, they'll refer you to one of us. And you got Shannon, who's going to be coming up here in a minute. You got Jenny, you got Randall. They're all experts at all these in different areas, different fields. So we'd be more than happy to help you. Another question?
I've used peroxide and sugar and water to spray the aphids
Okay.
on your eggplants, and I sprayed basically the whole garden with it.
Peroxide, sugar, and water. Can you
Dissolve the sugar, put it in a,
for egg? Okay, for aphids. Okay.
put it in a gallon sprayer, fill it up to the gallon mark, pour in a cup of peroxide, shake it up.
Okay, that sounds good.
Works great for I sprayed it on eggplants, and they get the aphids so bad that it looks like little doilies.
All right.
In a week.
I've never heard that. That's a great idea. So what was the percentage there, or 1 cup sugar,
1 cup peroxide,
1 cup peroxide, and what was it? 1 gallon of water. 1 cup sugar, 1 cup peroxide, 1 gallon of water for aphid control.
He asked me, he said, you work in bugs. He said, what do you use in he said, I get these aphids in my greenhouse, and I told him, he said it works.
Okay. It's very difficult to get rid of aphids, I'll tell you that right now. I thought 18-degree weather, even lower, would kill them off. Not a chance. They're just frozen on there until about 11 o'clock, then they start moving around again, And they got some natural, like I said, some antifreeze that just kind of keeps them going.